The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boots. Bank over better. Sign up today at boost.bet. Code SGPN to get a $25 deposit bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday night, May 24th, around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm as always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time for the second episode of the day. Did the men's French Open preview a couple hours ago. Time to get into the women's breakdown for the French Open. We're going to get into the quarter odds. We'll get into the outrights to win the event. And, of course, the lock and dog picks of the first round at the end of the show. Before we get into the actual breakdown, though, of the French Open, a quick reminder that we do have a great discount code right now on the merch store because we do have the code DGENS right now. And if you use that code at checkout, you'll get 20% off everything in the merch store. So once again, whether it's Tennis Gambling Podcast stuff, NBA Gambling Podcast stuff, regular SGPN stuff, doesn't matter. Use code DGENS at checkout, and you'll get 20% off everything in the merch store. Plus, reminder to help the show grow by subscribing on YouTube. Reminder we also have the podcast available on Spotify or Apple. So if you look at the podcast audio only, that's fine too. Just don't forget to leave a rating and a review. And for the actual YouTube people, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to help the show grow. Anyway, before we get into the actual breakdown of the French Open, don't really have any lock and dog picks to recap. We did that last episode. So we're going to recap what happened on the women's side of the tour in the last week or so, most notably the two events that happened in Strasbourg and the events that happened in Rabat. And you ended up seeing Rybakina win the Strasbourg title. So nice job by her. Couple of competitive matchups there down the stretch. Beat Haddad Maia in the semis in 3 and ended up beating Samsonova in the final. But nice win there, 6-1 in the final set. Never really in doubt for her. Weird scoreline for Rybakina. She won the 2 sets 6-1, but she lost the middle set 7-6. So the one competitive set Samsonova won, but Rybakina coasted in the other 2 sets. She was a pretty decent favorite there in the final at about minus 220. Got the job done there comfortably. Nice job by her. And the fact is she's had a pretty, I say, tumultuous stretch for her. So nice to see Rybakina back on top, and we'll see if she can carry over some of that momentum into the French Open. As for Joint, she ended up having a crazy run in Rabat because she ended up winning both the singles and the doubles title, which is pretty cool. So she ended up sweeping the board in the past week. So definitely cool. Ended up having a bit of a lucky break there. She was up a set against her opponent in the semis before she ended up winning with her retirement, but still beat a Christian 6-3, 6-2 in the final. She coasted. She never dropped a set in the entire event in singles, only dropped 1 set in doubles. That was actually the first match. So she was just running the table over the last couple of days. But nice job by Joint, who was also a decent favorite in the final. She was about minus 150, so not as big a favorite as Rybakina. But nice job winning the singles and the doubles title at the same event. Pretty cool. So good job by her. Nice job by Rybakina. And once again, we'll see if that carries over into the French Open or not. Either way, still impressive nonetheless. Anyway, time to get into the actual breakdown of the French Open for the women's side. Starting off with the recent winners, always it has become the Swiatek Invitational because she's been winning every year. Swiatek has won a lot of tournaments recently. To get into the actual history for Swiatek, I believe actually my copy and paste might not have worked out there. But I think she won the last 3 iterations of the event. So getting into the details there, Swiatek ended up beating Paolini in the final last year, ended up beating Mukova the year prior in the final, and beat Goff in the final before that. So Swiatek has won 3 straight French Opens. She's been great here, historically speaking. Anytime she loses here, it feels like a shock. Now, last year, she almost lost to Osaka, but she was able to survive as she was able to get the job done eventually en route to another French Open title. Point is, though, she has been really just the master of the French Open recently, and the question is, can anybody beat her? The crazy part is she's actually not even favored to win the event this year. She's had a pretty, I'd say, rough go of it recently, and the question is, will the negative recent form, be too much to overcome, or will Swiatek continue to look great? Because she has won the French Open 3 straight years, and she also won in 2020. So Krejcikova won 2021, but she's won 3 straight and 4 the last 5 iterations of the event. So the point is, Swiatek definitely has the, in my opinion, edge over everybody else because we know that she can do it time and time again. But but she's not favored. Sabalenka actually is. Find that fascinating. Either way, though, we'll get into the outright odds in a bit more detail in a second. Starting off, though, with the first quarter. This is the Sabalenka quarter, and of course, she's favored in this section. A reminder, said the same thing in the men's episode, shop around, find the best lines you can. You'll find a lot of different prices on the quarters here in the French Open, so keep that in mind. Pretty much every book has quarter odds, so just shop around. Takes a couple minutes, but you'll get a better price, and that will definitely help your overall, I'd say, betting skill set moving forward. Don't forget to shop around. It's simple, very easy to do. Anybody can do it. And once again, you'll make more money and you'll save money if you actually use that simple technique. Anyway, moving on to the first quarter. Sabalenka is about minus 165. Zhang is about plus 330. You have Schneider at about 850. You have Collins at 11-1. You have Towson at 12-1. Anisimova at 16-1. Samsonova at 22-1. Besides that, though, you have a couple other people who might not really have a chance. I'll mention Stearns because she was actually pretty decent about a week or two ago. But it's basically it. Stearns at 65-1. I don't see many shockers here. I see a pretty top-heavy quarter. You could argue that if Sabalenka and Zhang lose, maybe you'll get some chaos if you don't trust Schneider or Collins. But in reality, I see either Sabalenka or Zhang win this quarter. Both of them have been really good recently. Zhang actually beat Sabalenka a couple weeks ago, so I do like the fact that Zhang is in great form. We know that Zhang also had some success in the Olympics last year on these exact courts here in Roland Garros. I see a pretty good spot for, once again, both of them to have some success here. Mentioning the actual draw for both players, it is definitely, I'd say, manageable for both of them. Starting off with the women's side for, we'll go Sabalenka, actually. So starting off with the Sabalenka draw, pretty favorable. I mean, has basically a bye in the first couple rounds. Nothing that intimidating. The ranked person in her section is Fernandez. Could turn into Collins, though. Probably will turn into Collins, so we'll see if she beats Collins in the third round. Then you probably have Anisimova. Could be Towson, but we know that Sabalenka would be favored by a ton against all of them anyway, so I expect her to coast in this quarter. However, I did find a better price. I found minus 140. So give me minus 140 instead as my choice here for the first option in the first quarter. I think it's a good price, and I do think she'll have some success here in the French Open. However, Zhang, I think, has also a pretty favorable draw. Does have a pretty decent matchup in the first round. I think she'll be able to win that one. Then you have Ila, who actually made a pretty good run in an event a couple weeks ago. The point is, I think Zhang's in great form. I think she'll be able to win. Stearns might give her a problem. We'll see. But I do think that Zhang and Sabalenka can easily be on the collision course here in the first quarter. I wish there was another option that I had available that I think could have been a worthwhile long shot. Stearns is not reliable enough, so I didn't trust her at 65-1. Collins, I don't trust enough on clay. I think she's okay, but I'm not really sold. I didn't see many great options, so I'll go with the chalk here. Give me Sabalenka minus 140. Give me Zhang as well at plus 500. Didn't see many other options here. I just thought those were the two I was going to go with. If you wanted to argue for, once again, making a case for maybe Anisimova, if you want to argue for Stearns, Anisimova, I wanted a bigger price on. Like 16-1, I thought it needed to be closer to 20-1 or higher because you're beating Sabalenka, and I just don't see that happening. So based on that, give me the two favorites here. Give me Sabalenka and give me Zhang as my two choices for the first quarter. Moving on to the second quarter. This is the Swiatek quarter. Now, I said before, she is not favored to actually win the event, but she is favored to win the quarter. Interestingly, she might have a matchup against Sabalenka in the semis, which could be pretty fun, but Swiatek got kind of screwed over by the actual draw. Very tough quarter, I'll admit it. Now she's plus 100 or so. You have Paolini, who is the defending runner-up at plus 330. Swiatek killed her in the final last year. Svitolina is at 650. Rybakina is at 650, fresh off the title there in Strasbourg. And you also ended up seeing Ostapenko, who we know owns Swiatek in their careers. She has beaten her basically every time. And the question is, can Ostapenko get to a potential matchup there? And will she keep the head-to-head dominance? Or will Iga strike back and potentially beat her for once in a head-to-head matchup? But Ostapenko is 8-1. Noskova is around 16-1. Kostyuk is 20-1. Vekic is 20-1. Raducanu, 25-1. Potapova is about 40-1 as well. Basically it. So, look, I'm not going to go with any of the long shots here either. I think that you're looking at a pretty top-heavy quarter as well with Swiatek, Paolini, Svitolina, Rybakina, and Ostapenko. That's all you need. I think one of those five will definitely win the quarter. The question is which one. Now, Swiatek's draw itself is pretty favorable early on. The question is, will she be able to avoid Ostapenko? Because Ostapenko's beaten her every time they've played. So looking at the actual history here of the head-to-head, it is once again pretty funny how much Swiatek's gotten owned by Ostapenko. And to go through the actual details here in the head-to-head, Ostapenko has won each of the... Sorry, just quickly pulling it up here. That is not the correct one. I type in Ostapenko and it comes up Sabalenka. So let me just quickly change that for a second. Where is Ostapenko at? I know it's definitely going to be heavily in favor of Ostapenko. I just want the exact number. I don't want to accidentally say the wrong numbers here. Ostapenko is 6-0. 6-0, never lost. Won every single time they've played. So the point is, can Iga avoid her at all costs? I think the draw is pretty tough for Ostapenko, actually, and that's why I do actually like the path for Swiatek. So Swiatek does have a pretty easy path immediately. Has a potential matchup against Raducanu in the second round. Raducanu stinks. She'll bury her in the second round. Kotstuk maybe in the third. Not really scared of that at all. Fun matchup, though, potentially in the fourth. You could end up having a match between either Rybakina or Ostapenko. But I do like the fact that Ostapenko has to beat Rybakina first before getting to face off against Swiatek. And that could be a very tough matchup. So I do want to point out that Svitolina does have the easier, I'd say, half along with Paolini. Problem is, I think whoever wins the tougher section between Swiatek, between Svitolina and Rybakina, I think win, or Ostapenko, I think any of them are going to win. So the problem is you're running into, sorry, I actually misspoke. I meant Swiatek, Rybakina, Ostapenko. I think whoever wins out of those three and makes it to the quarters should make the semis. So I do acknowledge that Paolini and Svitolina have the better draw per se, but I do think those three, Swiatek, Rybakina, and Ostapenko, one of them will win the section. So the question is which. Now, I do think that Swiatek has too good of a price to pass up on. I found plus 115. I can't turn that down. She's won the French Open 4 times. She's won each of the last 3 times. I'm getting plus money to win the quarter. Like, I understand if Ostapenko was in her immediate section. She's not. There's no guarantee Ostapenko beats Rybakina anyway. I think Swiatek has to be bet on. I understand the bad form. She did a presser for the Roland Garros media about a day ago or so, and she said she got down early for practice. She's happy to be here. I'm not surprised she's happy to be here. I do think Swiatek, once again, is going to be the person to beat at the event, even though I recognize how mentally she's looked a little bit out of it recently. I do think returning to the comfortable court here in Roland Garros will help her out. Plus 115, though, the odds are too good to pass up on. I really just can't avoid it at plus money. I'll take her at plus 115. However, I'm not going to solely take her. I will go with other options. I am going to go with Paolini at plus 390. Draws favorable. She gets to avoid Swiatek until the end. And the fact is, you have Rybakina, you have Ostapenko, and you have Swiatek killing each other, and she's on the other side. So I have to mention Paolini. We saw her win the Italian Open. She did a great job of making a couple of difficult matches really turn easy at the end. And the fact is, she was in a pretty difficult spot a couple of times and was able to get by. We know she made the final last year. She made the final Wimbledon too. Been a solid player over the last year. I'll take her with the good draw at plus 390, but I will not take Ostapenko. She's too volatile for me. Give me Rybakina at 10-1. I understand that, once again, Rybakina has had a pretty up and down year or so, but I said a second ago Rybakina was at plus 650. I found 10-1. Bet Rivers had 10-1. Like the price too much. I'm getting extra $3.50. I'll take it. I think that price is definitely too good to pass up on. I will skip Ostapenko. No offense to her, which is good news for Swiatek. So I'll take that angle. Give me Swiatek, give me Paolini, and give me Rybakina as my 3 choices for the second quarter. See a question from an educated. Is Collins as good on clay as hard court? No. Definitely better on hard court. She's not terrible on clay, but I think that she's definitely at her best on hard court. So there's a slight downgrade, maybe not as much as you might think. She's not she's not bad on clay, but I do think she's definitely better on hard court. There is a downgrade. I'll have to mention that. Anyway, time to move on to the third quarter. Before we get to that, the reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, which is EdgeBoost. Get the first ever bank account built for bettors. They're also ensuring that all your gambling transactions are approved, no usage fees, and no amounts. You have your rewards as well. 100% approval. Run the deposit. Sign up today edgejuice.bet, promo code SGPN. When you sign up, though, deposit $25, edge match deposit, edgejuice.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Nordic Fantasy because they have a brand new promo. They're going along for the NBA playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in for game one, and the longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. When you sign up for your new account, use the promo code SGPN to get a special pick and a first-time visit offer up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the second quarter of the French Open. Time to move on into the third quarter. This is the weakest quarter by a mile. Andreeva's favored in the quarter at about minus 120. And she has basically nobody against her worth a damn, unless you want to make an argument for a couple of people who have some question marks around them, but they could, in theory, make a run. Andreeva, though, is minus 115 or so. You have Pegula at 7-1. Whose spoiler is really not that good on clay. You have Mukova at 8-1, who's been battling some injuries. I want to point out that she's a very solid player, but she's had some injuries recently and some illnesses, has not played much over the last couple of months. Osaka, who has been pretty good lately, actually. But the point is, Osaka, you can't really trust because we know that she has a lot of hype every single tournament. She never lives up to it, and there's also some durability issues over the last couple of months. But to mention Osaka, though, as a quick segue, she won a title in the Challenger Circuit in St. Malo in France, then won a couple rounds in Rome, then lost to Stearns in 3. Still ended up making it to the round of 16, though, so it could have been worse. But the point is she won a Challenger event. Does that matter? Not really, but I'm happy that she regained some of her form. We'll see what she can do. She almost beat Swiatek here last year. We'll see how she looks in the event. But if you want to take her in the quarter, you can find her at about plus 850. You have Kasatkina at 12-1. Badoza at 12-1 as well. Jabeur at 12-1. Mertens at 20-1. Sakari 20-1. You have Putintseva at 22-1, and that's basically it. If you want to mention some other people in the past who have actually been successful, you have Androsva at 30-1, who made a final a couple years ago, I believe, and that's basically it. So the question is, do you want to go with the chalk here with Andreeva? I'm going to take Andreeva, but I'm going to take other people as well. I found minus 110 on her. The draw is favorable. I can't really ignore it. We know she made a good run last year here, and I do think facing off against Buxa, potentially Kruger in the second round, maybe Putintseva in the third. I mean, she's going to coast into what should be the quarterfinals. Badoza plays against Osaka in the first round. Very tough match for both of them. I think Osaka might win that, actually. Point is, though, not the best draw for both of them in the first round, so I will pass on Badoza and Osaka by default because I don't like the first round matchup. I'd rather have a nice, easy cakewalk in the first round instead. So give me what I think should be a good draw for Andreeva to make it into the semis. That's why her price is so cheap. I'll take her, though, at minus 110. For the other options, though, I am going to take some gambles here. Said a second ago, Mukova, I saw it 8-1. Did find a 12-1 on BetRivers as well. Great price. I'll gladly take the extra $4. Mukova, we know, can be a great clay player. The fact remains she is definitely good when healthy. Made the final last year, 2 years ago, and lost to Swiatek. Did win a set, though. She lost in 3. So point is, Mukova, when healthy, we know can be dangerous. We saw her make the final in the French Open about 2 years ago. Saw her make a deep run to the U.S. Open semis. She's a solid player. She's been battling some illnesses and some injuries. I get it. But the point is, I do think that her talent is undeniable, and she's very good on clay, as we saw last year. Give me Mukova at 12-1 for the price. And for the last one, I will go with a long shot. Somebody who's been good here in years past, but I do think will not win the event, but somebody who can make a deep run and then lose in the semis. I will go with Jabeur at 22-1. I understand she's not been as good over the last year or so, but she made the quarters back-to-back years here. I do think that her slice game can really frustrate people on clay, and I do think that at 12-1 on DraftKings, it's 22-1 on FanDuel, I believe. It's a great price. I can't really turn that down. Jabeur's draw is not terrible. I'm not going to say it's an amazing draw, but I think it's easy enough for her to win. Has Frech in the first round, who's ranked, but Jabeur's decent favorite in that one. Potentially Vondrousova, who's barely played recently after battling some shoulder issues, and that should be a win for Jabeur as well. You're looking at Pegula maybe in the third round, who's really not that good on clay, and at that point, you kind of have some opportunities to make some noise if the draw opens up. I'll go with Jabeur. Once again, back-to-back quarterfinals at 22-1 in the weakest draw out of the 4 quarters. I think it's a pretty solid option here for a long shot. So give me, once again, Andreeva, give me Mukova, and give me Jabeur at 22-1. So moving on to the fourth quarter. This is the Goff quarter. Pretty weak quarter as well. For this one, you have Goff at minus 120, Keys at 550, who's fine on clay. Much better on hard court, obviously, but not terrible. You have Navarro at 750. Kind of a similar story, better on hard court, decent on clay, but still Krejcikova, who we know ended up winning the title here a couple years ago. Problem is she really has not played many matches this year, and the fact is she won Wimbledon last year somehow, but she's barely played. So I do think that her lack of actual matches, her overall, I'd say, inactivity, will come back to bite her here. I don't see her making another great run. She has actually not made it past the third round since winning the French Open in 2021. She's actually never won a match since winning the French Open. It's actually a pretty funny history. In singles, she lost in the first round 2018, lost in qualifying 2019, lost in the fourth round of 2020, won the title in 2021, and then lost in the first round the final 3 years. So that's one of the flukiest runs of all time for singles in the French Open. Point is, though, I'll put it this way, we are not expecting much from Krejcikova in this event, but either way, you have Kenin at 12-1, you have Alexandrova at 12-1, you have Haddad Maia at 14-1, who made the semis a couple years ago, I believe. You have Kalinskaya at 20-1, Kudermetova 22-1, Bolter at 25-1. You kind of get the point. So the question is, out of the very weak quarter that I mentioned, which American do I want to back? Because Krejcikova, I'm not taking it 11-1. Kenin, I'm not interested in, but she's American as well. Alexandrova, I don't trust enough. I thought Maya's not consistent enough, but she has been okay recently. So you have Goff, you have Keys, and you have Navarro. I'm going chalk here. Give me Goff at -120. Yes, the double faulting can be really annoying to deal with, but she made the final here before. And I do think she can have a very good run based on her draw. Made the final in 2022. We know that she is still a very solid clay player. And the fact is, when you're looking at her actual draw, the quarter is so weak, she might accidentally stumble into making it into the semis for this quarter. She has basically a bye in the first couple rounds, potentially Kalinskaya in the third round, who she should beat if she even gets that far. Krejcikova is the other ranked person in her half, which I don't see her getting that far, to be honest. So maybe Alexandrova, maybe if you want to go for somebody else, maybe Kudermetova if she finds her groove. But in reality, Goff's going to cruise to basically the quarterfinals. And at that point, I'll take my chances. Give me Goff at -120 by herself. I will not take anybody else. Think nobody else is worth anything. I think Keys and, once again, Navarro, not really playing good enough form for me to actually take. If it was hard court, maybe. Clay, not so much. Give me Goff by herself at -120 for the fourth quarter. Moving on, though, to the outrights to win the event. So for the outrights odds here, starting off with the favorite, you have Sabalenka at +240. You have Swiatek at 3-1. You have Goff at 5-1. You have Andreeva at 5-1 as well. Paolini, defending runner-up, 14-1. You have Zhang at 18-1. Rybakina at about 28-1. You have Ostapenko at 30-1. Svitolina 30-1. Keys 30-1. Navarro 50-1. Osaka 50-1. Schneider 50-1. Mukova 50-1. Pegula 50-1. You have Collins at 65-1. You have Towson at 80-1. You kind of get the point. Badoza and Jabeur both at 80-1. If you want to go for Krejcikova for the hell of it, 100-1. Not going to happen, but knock yourself out. Anyway, so the point is for this event, I went to the quarters, and I'm kind of wondering if I want to go for any long shots in this event, because you know that women's tennis can be very unpredictable, and you might see a Cinderella run or two. I don't see much, to be honest. I see a pretty straightforward event here. Maybe it's because my mind is so focused on how the last couple of iterations went, which focuses on pretty top-heavy competition. And if there was a long shot, the favorite will dominate in the final to beat the long shot. So I think that's how I'm going to look at it. For this one, though, I'm going to skip Sabalenka. Not interested at this price. The fact is, Sabalenka's never played a final here, and I do think that Sabalenka is a solid clay player. Saw her lose to Zhang, though, a couple weeks ago. If she's never made a final here, and she's in the same half as Swiatek, I don't see the good odds. I don't see good enough odds to bet her in this one. Sabalenka's at +240. She's never made the final here, and she's in the same half as Swiatek. I'll pass. I don't think that's interesting enough. If Sabalenka was like 4-1, I'd consider it. But 240, it's not good enough. I'll pass on Sabalenka in what might seem like a shock to some, but I'm not interested. I'd rather go for other favorites, but I am going to go with the obvious choice for me. Give me Swiatek at 4-1. Yes, she's been bad lately. Yes, Collins did beat her on clay a couple weeks ago, but still, she's won this event 4 times. She's the 3-time defending champion. The fact is, I think any issues she's dealing with will be rectified by her being so comfortable on the courts here. She's almost impossible to beat here. It's not Nadal dominance on once again, Roland Garros courts, but for women's sake, it's close to it. I mean, you've won 4 of the last 5. You've won 3 straight. You win every time you're here. I think 4-1 is an insane price. This was on BetMGM, I think, but 4-1's crazy. I understand the argument is that Swiatek can be, I'd say, potentially shaken mentally, and maybe you don't want to bet her. I'd understand if she was plus 150 and you don't want to bet her. 4-1. Like, yeah, I'm going to take 4-1. It's a crazy price for a 3-time defending champion. Give me Swiatek at 4-1. Yes, the draw is tricky. The quarter is not great. I get it. Ostapenko has to beat Rybakina first. Easier said than done. Think Swiatek gets by. Give me Swiatek at 4-1 for the value there. I am going to go with Goff at 5-1. I needed somebody in the bottom half, and I think Goff's definitely the person to do it. Fourth quarter is a joke. Third quarter is Andreeva, who Goff actually beat on clay earlier this season. I think Goff has a very good path. Made the final last year, or a couple years ago, I mean. And the fact is, Goff's serve can be problematic, and yet she's still been successful in years past. Just to mention the actual success she's had in Grand Slams recently. So she made the semis in the Australian Open and the semis in the French Open. Made the quarters of the Australian Open. But the last 4 years in the French Open, quarterfinals, final, quarterfinals, semifinals. A lot of consistency over there. I get I just roasted Sabalenka for never making the final before and still being a player I want to skip. The point is Goff is 2 times the odds of Sabalenka, and they have similar resumes. Give me Goff in the much easier half here at 5-1 as my second choice for the French Open. Third choice, I will fade Sabalenka. Give me Zhang at 21-1. Simply put, the odds are too big for me. I understand the argument is that Zhang might have to face off against Sabalenka on clay here in the quarterfinals, but we saw Zhang just beat her, so I do think the confidence might be there for Zhang. She had all that success in the French Open, and not the French Open, sorry, in the Olympics as well last year on the same courts. Fact is, she beat Sabalenka in Rome, did lose to Goff in the next match after that in a final set tiebreak in the semis. Point is, though, she's proven she can beat Sabalenka. She destroyed her 6-4, 6-3. I think that Zhang has the game to make a deep run. Will she win the title? Probably not, but I do think that 21-1 is a great price when you have been so successful on the courts here in the past in terms of winning a gold medal here, which is definitely cool. So winning a gold medal, I think definitely suggests that she can handle the courts here. She's won big matches here before, and she did make the final of the Australian Open in 2024. Not much French Open success in the past, but we've seen her blossom after the French Open as she ended up winning the gold medal last year. So I do think after making the quarters in the US Open as well, I think she's in line for what could be a very good run, and I do think that is a good price for her at 21-1. So give me the defending gold medalist at these exact courts to win the title at 21-1. So once again, the outright picks here for the Women's French Open. We're going to go with the quarters again first. First quarter, going to go with Sabalenka at -140, and we'll go with Zhang at 5-1. For the second quarter, going to go with Swiatek at +115. We'll also throw in Paolini at 390, and we will throw in Rybakina at 10-1. No offense to Ostapenko, but we will only go with those 3. For the third quarter, a very weak quarter, we are going to take some shots here. We have Andreeva for chalk at -110. We have Mukova at 12-1. Hopefully she's healthy. If she is, I do think her game is still very underrated, even though she's made a couple of deep runs recently in Grand Slams. She's really good. And I do think when healthy, 12-1 is a good price. I'll take her there. And last but not least, we'll take Jabeur at 22-1. Back-to-back quarterfinals, decent draw, weak quarter. I think it's a good spot for her at this price at 22-1. Fourth quarter, though, going with Goff by herself at -120. Nobody else. For the outrights to win the event, we're going to go with Swiatek at 4-1. Insane price for a 3-time defending champion. Have to bet on principle. We're going to go with Goff at 5-1 because I like her half of the draw. Made a final here a couple years ago. Think it is a good overall path for her. And we'll go with Zhang as the long shot at 21-1. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the outrights in the Women's French Open. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the actual lock and dog, a reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, which is Rhythm, because they're the home of ad picks and props available for the NBA playoffs, for the golf cards, for baseball, for WNBA as well. You can also try out the free trial, so check that out for a 7-day free trial. A reminder, though, when you sign up for your new account, use the promo codes that they have. They have a 25% discount for the month by using the promo code SGPN25, 50% off the annual discount with the promo code SGPN50. So once again, use Rhythm, promo code SGPN25, SGPN50 for a discount. We're also available for a free trial with the sponsorship that we have. So use the 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamble.com/RITHMM. We're also brought to you by Circle Ultimate Fantasy Bowl Giveaway, because they are giving away the Ultimate Fantasy Bowl experience for a 12-person league in Vegas to be treated like VIPs for your stay. Winner will get a 2-night stay at Circle Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league, and they'll also be able to hold their draft at a Cabana Stadium Swim with a $5K food and beverage credit, limited transportation to and the airport as well, and much more. The contest is from May 5th to June 30th. Enter at sportsgamble.com/circa, sportsgamble.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, because they're the book of every sport. They have the NBA playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have baseball, they have tennis, they have UFC, you name it. They're also available in a ton of locations. Use crypto for Lightning Fast payouts, deposit. When you sign up, though, for your new account, use your promo code SGPN to get a special 100% deposit match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through all the outrights for the Women's French Open. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, I'm going to go to a dog, actually. I'm going to look at a matchup between, in my opinion, a pretty overvalued favorite here in Bolter against Monet. I'm going to go with Monet. I'm going to go with the plus 5.5 games here at minus 130. Relative unknown French qualifier, but Bolter has done nothing in her entire French Open career, and 5.5 games is way too many games in my opinion. Bolter has never won a French Open main event match before. She's never done so. Main draw, never done so. I do think Bolter is overvalued here. She won a clay challenger a couple weeks ago. Good for her. Doesn't mean much. There are a couple of really bad players in the challenger, and the fact is she barely won the event. Each of the last 3 matches in that title run did not end in straight sets. So even against weak competition in the challenger circuit on clay, she won the title. She wasn't dominant in that entire event. So I see Bolter being overvalued here. Monet, I mentioned a second ago, with the qualifying, she should be comfortable in the courts here. And she's also French. Massive amount of home crowd advantage here. 5.5 games, though, for Bolter, who's never won a French Open main draw match before. I think it's an insane price for a favorite. Bolter's not a great clay player, and I do think that Monet getting 5.5 games here is definitely a value play at minus 130 with the home crowd behind her in France. Give me Monet, a plus the 5.5 games here at minus 130 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the matchup between Haddad Maia and Baptiste. And for this one, I'm going to go with Haddad Maia. Team total over 12.5 games here at plus 105. Haddad Maia has been a marathon girl recently, and she's actually been winning a bunch of matches. She's gone over this team total in 6 of her last 7 matches, win or lose. So the fact is, when she loses, tends to go distance, and I see that happening in this one. There's also been a couple of competitive sets recently, as there's been a 7-5 or a 7-6 set in 4 straight Haddad Maia matches. So she can win in straight sets with a breaker in there. That'll be enough anyway to get to 13. So I like the competitive matches and the competitive sets combo for Haddad Maia here, win or lose. I like the team total. Plus, Baptiste has been a serious marathon girl recently. 6 straight matches she's been in that has not ended in straight sets. 6 straight. So there's been a bunch of marathons with her. We've seen Haddad Maia go over the team total regularly, 6 of her last 7, and there have been a lot of competitive matches between Haddad Maia and her opponents recently. And we've seen Baptiste also have a bunch of marathon matches too. So based on the overall form that both players are in, both players are fine. Haddad Maia is favored at like minus 150. I get it. I don't really trust Haddad Maia, though, because she can easily self-destruct at any moment, but I see a close matchup either way. I think that you'll see a pretty back-and-forth battle here. Faced off on clay about 3 years ago, and you saw Haddad Maia win in 3. Obviously went over the team total in that one. But I think 12.5 at plus 105 is a good deal with the amount of time she's gone over recently, her team total, the amount of competitive sets, and the fact that Baptiste has had a 3-setter in 6 straight. I think suggests that you might be seeing a competitive battle here. Give me Haddad Maia, team total over 12.5 as my dog at plus 105. So once again, the plays here for the lock and dog for the first round of the Women's French Open. Going to go with Monet, plus 5.5 games here at minus 130 against Bolter. For the dog, going to go with Haddad Maia, team total over 12.5 games at plus 105. That's going to wrap it up for the show. We're back once again for the men's second round in a couple days. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.